La la la, I don't have theme music, la la la. The opening scene is a humongous fakeout. Even though there's no one around to hear him, Dr. Craven purposely avoids saying anything during this scene in order to hide the fact that he's the culprit. Dr. Craven is by the tree, now he's at the tent opening, oh, now he's by the tree again. It is impossible for Dr. Craven to throw the tape recorder at that angle from inside the tent. Big Island Mike. This question needs a question mark. The first sentence of the game has a grammatical issue. This is a bad sign. Speaking of grammar, sometimes the game has an apostrophe in Hawaii, and sometimes it doesn't. Also, the captions are overly fond of putting ellipses where they don't belong. Formula is capitalized when it shouldn't be. There's a period after the question mark. This sentence needs quotation marks, and in needs 2 apostrophes, not 1. Okay, grammar rant over. Back to the game. Nancy openly admits she doesn't know anything about bugs or even what field work means. Maybe she should have researched the job before accepting it.
You'll live like a real Hawaiian. Work like they work. Play like they play.
Big Island Mike certainly puts people to work, but at no point does he let them play. When Big Island Mike tilts his head back, his pupils disappear, and that gives me nightmares.
Got the key right here, but you know what? I'm not gonna give it to you.
Big Island Mike is a jerk.
You're gonna get so relaxed, you're gonna...
Being forced to do other people's chores is not relaxing.
Forget the bug doctor, sign me up!
Nancy's not going to abandon her job just for your random garbage.
I can't leave yet. I still need to get that car from Big Island Mike.
Technically, you need to get the key, not the car. Although if Nancy stole the car, that would be way more interesting. By coincidence, Nancy and the Hardys are at the exact same spot at the exact same time. The Hardys stand in place without moving for 40 seconds.
Hey, listen, I'll call you later, okay?
But...
Bye!
Nancy hangs up on her boyfriend to talk to hot guys. Wow, the Hardy Boys looked so much better 2 games ago. What happened? John Mee, do you have any ideas?
Victim of botched plastic surgery.
Joe's comb-over.
Nancy? What are you doing here?
Joe's voice comes out of Frank's mouth. Frank is on the left here, and now he's on the right.
Don't worry. As soon as the opportunity presents itself, we'll be doing some hardcore snooping, too.
Frank's entire investigation consists of picking a receipt off the floor. That is not hardcore sleuthing.
Believe it or not, we're on assignment. Joe, keep it down.
Frank says this even though there's clearly no one around who can overhear them.
He's an up-and-coming world-class surfer.
Joe's impression of a surfer.
He's an up-and-coming world-class surfer, which so far has made rummaging through his paperwork impossible for a rough-skinned man. Monster repellent?
Joe feels the need to act out everything he says.
He runs a local business called Big Island Mike's Immersion Excursions.
The Hardys act like this conversation isn't taking place on Big Island Mike's private beach.
No kidding. I'm supposed to pick up a car at Big Island Mike's.
Nancy acts like she hasn't already met Big Island Mike.
Although I'm willing to bet this Kane Okala guy could.
Joe's main suspect is a guy who died 1,000 years ago. Isn't Joe supposed to be a good detective? The Hardys give Nancy 2.5 minutes of exposition.
Call us anytime, okay?
2 teenage boys share 1 cell phone. Nancy is standing here when she talks to the Hardys, then they leave, and all of a sudden she's standing here.
I can't just keep walking down the beach. I need to collect shells so I can get those keys from Big Island Mike.
Nancy refuses to get any shells on the rest of the beach for basically no reason.
I can get those keys from Big Island Mike.
You need 1 key, Nancy. Nancy is standing on the beach here, but if she turns around, suddenly she's in the ocean. Shell hunting is fine the first time around, but after that the shells appear randomly, and it takes forever to get enough shells to make anything. The newspaper says the police showed up at Healy Healy when the alarm was triggered, but when Nancy triggers the alarm later on in the game, the police don't show up at all.
May I keep the necklace I made?
Sorry. My idea, my necklace.
Big Island Mike is a jerk. Big Island Mike gives Nancy the key, only to immediately take it back. Big Island Mike is a jerk! Here's what it looks like if Nancy has multiple necklaces.
And here's what it looks like when she shows it to Big Island Mike. What happened to her other necklace?
I made a couple of necklaces. May I keep one of them?
Sorry. My idea, my necklace.
Big Island Mike does this garbage even if you make multiple necklaces. The GPS does not show a river or a bridge. Why did the bridge suddenly collapse? Why is there only one road that leads across the island? Nobody at Healy Healy cares that they're trapped on this side of the island. Why did Big Island Mike pre-program the coordinates for Healy Healy into Nancy's GPS? He hates Healy Healy, and there's no reason to believe Nancy would go there. 3 minutes of Quigley's notes. Nancy takes the tape recorder from the ground, but it looks like it's in front of a piece of fabric.
Frankly, I don't care much for hearing myself on tape. It makes me sound very nasal for some strange reason.
I have a hard time believing Quigley doesn't know she has a nasal voice.
Which means I'm on the verge of fame, fortune, and free labor. Woohoo!
Quigley openly brags about getting Nancy to work for free. The tape inside the tape recorder doesn't move at all.
Dr. Kim, are you here? Hello? Anybody here? Dr. Kim?
Nancy has to ask 5 times before realizing nobody else is inside the tiny tent. So, where does Quigley sleep or eat? The formula machine is plugged in and has power. Why can't Nancy plug the radio into that outlet and skip the entire solar cell puzzle? Where's the formula machine plugged into, anyway? Nancy turns pages in this notebook, but she's always on the first page. Dr. Craven's high school yearbook went out of its way to insult him. No wonder he's so angry. This 10-second animation plays every single time you use the GPS. I would be a lot more frightened of Dr. Craven's temper if he didn't stop and stare blankly at Nancy in between every sentence. Dr. Craven. Nancy writes about Dr. Craven's allergies in her notebook, even if he doesn't tell her about them.
A solar panel. Looks like this is what powers the radio it's attached to.
How does Nancy know the radio is attached to the solar panel? I certainly can't tell that just by looking at it.
Since you're here, you can do it!
Nancy does everyone else's chores cliché. If you make a single mistake on this puzzle, Nancy throws out all the seeds and tries again. It would make more sense if she only threw out the bad seeds.
Instruct Olson to put a
There is no one named Olson on Craven's employee list.
box of A3 photovoltaic cells into...
Dr. Craven knows exactly what type of solar cells Nancy needs without being told.
Instruct Olson to put a box of A3 photovoltaic...
Bad audio. Editing.
This puzzle needs instructions.
The radio has 8 other channels, none of which get used.
You spend 10 minutes fixing the radio, only to use it once. The radio reception is awful, but Nancy's cell phone has perfect reception. Quigley is so oblivious she doesn't realize the radio connection is bad. Quigley ignores you every other time you use the radio. Quigley is a jerk. Where does Quigley keep her radio anyway? I don't see it on her or in her backpack. Nancy's phone changes to a flip phone if you switch interfaces.
Oh, great. All I heard was green trigger rock or something. How am I supposed to figure out where that is?
Nancy doesn't know about Three Finger Rock, even though she put a picture of it in her case file.
Are you familiar with a place in the jungle around here called Green Trigger Rock or something like that?
Never heard of it. And I know this island better than anybody. So if I haven't heard of it, trust me, there's no such place.
Big Island Mike lies to Joe for no apparent reason.
Think you could explain this try it and trade it system of yours again?
Joe forgets things he already knows, so Big Island Mike can give the players a tutorial. This is the first time Big Island Mike lets the Hardys go fishing. That means Big Island Mike was lying earlier when he said,
Got those boys surfing, shelling, fishing.
Big Island Mike indicates you should make necklaces to get fish bait, but if you do that before asking Big Island Mike about a lure, the game glitches.
The more Big Island bucks you get, the more stuff you can do in here.
You can do exactly 2 things in here, Big Island Mike.
A never-ending circle of fun.
More like a never-ending circle of pain. Frank and Joe are paying money to do Big Island Mike's chores. This is the worst vacation ever.
You can put the shells you find in here. You can put the shells you find in here.
Big Island Mike says the exact same thing to Joe and Nancy. The Hardy Boys find a cute girl cliché.
Come on, Mr. Mapu, nobody's perfect. She must have some bad habits. Aw, come on. You like to ride motorcycles, go to wild parties, pig out on shave ice? An adrenaline freak like you never does anything wild and crazy?
Joe is pretty bad at hiding the fact that he's trying to dig up dirt on Pua. Where is Frank during this part of the game? Pua is blonde here and not blonde here.
Welcome, Dano.
Pua quotes a detective show at the Hardys, even though she doesn't know they're detectives. Pua claims that she surfs all the time, but we never see her surf at any point. Fishing reused from Game 12. Frank can get credit for the fish Joe caught, but he can't get credit for the necklaces Nancy made.
5 of these necklaces require you to buy shells before you can make them.
Gosh, I'm good.
Joe's ego.
Hey, Nance, good news. I figured out that Dr. Kim isn't at Green Trigger Rock, she's at 3 Finger Rock. The coordinates are north 19 degrees, 24 hours, 42 minutes, by west 155 degrees, 9 hours, 1 minute. Gosh, I'm good.
Hey, Nance, good news. I figured out that Dr.
We hear this entire message twice in a row. Johnny Kudo attacks Joe while standing off screen in order to save on animation. The 3 fingers look more like toes. It takes about 30 seconds to go down the long pathway to Quigley. Yeah, the scenery is pretty, but considering how often you have to make this trip, it feels like they only included this to pad out the game's runtime. Unless you make necklaces, you're forced to go fishing twice. This also feels like an excuse to pad out the game's runtime.
Shoot, I forgot to tell her that somebody trashed her camp.
Nancy forgets important plot information.
Nancy, I asked you to get my clipboard. How could you screw up something as simple as that?
Says the person who can't have a 10-second conversation without going off topic. You have to go all the way to Quigley's camp and back again just to get a clipboard. Quigley makes a big deal out of Nancy getting her clipboard, but it turns out she doesn't need it. All she wants is the formula machine number.
I'll just have to collect and analyze all the data again. Or should I say, you'll have to.
The frass puzzle. About 60% of the gameplay is spent on this one puzzle. It's long and boring. Nancy used to be a sassy detective, now she's a frassy detective. Nancy spends the entire game analyzing caterpillar waste while the Hardys solve a mystery. Why do they get the good plot line in this game? There is not enough mystery in this game for one detective, let alone 3.
Someone jumped him while he was poking around Big Island Mike's immersion center. Just after he left that message for you, in fact.
Sounds like Frank is accusing Nancy of distracting Joe. Joe is knocked unconscious and he's immediately taken to the hospital. Nancy's been knocked unconscious multiple times and she's never been to a hospital once. Johnny is wanted by the police, but he still gives out his real phone number to strangers.
Hey, Johnny. You don't know me, but you know my brother. He's the one you slugged when you were at Big Island Mike's. I know what you two have been up to. So if you're smart, you'll give me a call. 280-555-7263.
If you're smart, you don't give your phone number to wanted criminals who put your relatives in the hospital. The Johnny Kudo storyline is entirely optional. Pua tells Frank all about the chambers where she's hiding the stolen canisters, and she even helps Frank get inside. Culprit foils their own plot.
No, I'm not going to listen to you ever again! You come back here! Pull up!
Frank is only a few steps away from the surfer shack, but Big Island Mike is able to leave before Frank arrives. I'm sorry, but there is no way Big Island Mike can move that much faster than Frank. This puzzle.
You got 2 of the flavors right.
He doesn't tell you which ones are right, just to make the puzzle harder. That face. Big Island Mike can't be bothered to walk 10 feet to get his own shave ice.
Thank you not to call me again, unless and until you have found out what Mapu is up to!
Richard Aikens is a jerk. You're forced to remember the coordinates for Kapu Cave because they're not in Nancy's journal, and you can't check inventory items on the map screen.
No, the microscope lens is broken.
The rest of the microscope is in perfect condition. I guess Dr. Craven handled it delicately during his wild temper tantrum. Why call this place Kapu Cave if the cave entrance is sealed and nobody can get inside?
Oh yeah, this is real useful.
The game insults you for buying things.
Whoa. That eel means business. So much for following that current chart. Not with that eel there.
Frank breathes in and out while talking.
This eel only exists to prevent Frank from accessing the endgame challenge too early.
I just wondered if you knew what the deal is with all those webs at Kapu Cave.
They were made by Norsabeta larvae. Must have something to do with their food supply.
Quigley forgets this information later on when she wonders why the Norsabeta odorata population has exploded. The Norsabeta odorata population has exploded, but the only place they make webs is at Kapu Cave.
We're gonna be famous, Nancy, and with any luck, rich as heck. Way to go!
How do you get rich by finding a lot of bugs? Quigley knows Nancy isn't getting paid for this job, but she still brags about making money right in front of Nancy. Quigley is a jerk.
It's a kind of moth, and all those Norsabeta caterpillars have been eating.
A real entomologist wouldn't confuse moths and caterpillars.
I need to analyze the contents of those frass jars. The notes on my clipboard will tell you how to go about it.
There is a part 2 to the frass puzzle.
I need to get a sample of whatever it is that Malachi Craven is secretly growing up there at the Healy Healy, even if it means sneaking in.
Nancy's boss orders her to break the law.
Oh, all right. Yes, I stole a security pass. Yes, I snuck into Healy Healy a couple of times to dig through Craven's files. And yes, a rival company paid me to do all that.
Quigley orders Nancy to break into Healy Healy, even though she's already broken in multiple times. Why doesn't Quigley do it herself?
Have you heard about Kane Okala? Maybe he's the one who trashed your camp.
Oh, please.
Quigley insults the premise of the game. Conveniently, Dr. Craven falls asleep right when Nancy needs to break into the Healy Healy. Dr. Craven keeps incriminating evidence where anyone can get it.
This should keep those men in yellow off my back.
Nancy says this even if she hasn't met the men in yellow. The plant was extracted on April 6th, but Big Island Mike's calendar and note are set for early March. Dr. Craven is growing dozens of plants here, but Nancy only tests one of them. The security system warns intruders when they've been discovered. That is not very secure. The employees instantly recognize Nancy as the intruder, even though she's wearing a suit that's indistinguishable from everyone else's.
Waverly here.
There is no Waverly on the employee roster. There are only about 5 employees working right now, but over a dozen of them are listed as actively working.
I went out to her camp to confront her, only she wasn't there, which made me even more furious, so then I just lost it.
According to the opening cutscene, Dr. Craven threw a fit before checking to see if Quigley was there.
I've been told I have a slight anger management problem.
Dr. Craven has a slight anger management problem? That's like saying this game is slightly bad.
I discovered the only thing on it was a bunch of garbage about moth larvae.
How can you tell this page is about moth larvae just by looking at it?
Wait a minute. How did you know that torn page was in the pocket of my lab coat?
I have really good eyes.
Dr. Craven believes this. Where did Nancy get the labels for these test tubes? There are none on the table. Quigley spends half the game hiding in a tree to save on animation.
I've carried you long enough, Nancy. You're on your own.
Quigley thinks she was carrying Nancy? More like the other way around.
There's a metal ring inside my pack.
Nancy is given a metal nose ring for solving the awful frass challenge. This makes no sense. The bottom of the nose is solid rock. How did Nancy get a ring through it? This puzzle. I find it inconsistent that Nancy has to find the animals in no particular order, while Frank has to find the animals in a specific order. Nancy discovers a hidden passageway cliché.
It's Nancy. Hey, remember that creepy face that had been carved into a wall? The one with all the pictures on his teeth? Well, thanks to that list of animals you gave me, the face opened up, and I'm about to explore whatever's behind it. I don't know if or how this helps you, but I just thought I'd let you know. Anyway, I'm going in, so wish me luck.
Frank, it's Nancy. Hey, remember that creepy face that had been carved into a wall?
We hear this message twice in a row.
No use trying to go that way.
Once Nancy enters Kapu Cave, the exit closes behind her. Why? Nancy doesn't care that she's trapped inside here. Who created the complicated network of tunnels and puzzles that make up Kapu Cave? Why did they set up so many puzzles? In real life, Nancy would probably pass out from being this close to lava in an enclosed space.
The chart supposedly says how to do that, but I've never been able to figure it out.
The solution to this puzzle is follow the animal pictures in the order they appear on the map. How was Pua unable to figure out the solution on her own?
Soon, the beetle larvae, which are practically microscopic.
Those don't look microscopic to me.
What are you doing here?
Mike is clearly walking on stone, but it sounds like he's walking on the beach. Nancy and Frank have to solve numerous puzzles to reach the chamber, but Big Island Mike gets to sneak in through a side entrance.
What is all this?
2 crates counts as all this. The entire plot of the game is explained in the last 5 minutes.
How did you get in here?
Pua didn't notice her dad until just now. Pua walks across the entire room in under 3 seconds.
Dad, no! We're in too deep. We've got to go through with it now.
Wait a minute. You're in this whatever it is together?
Frank's painfully stupid question.
I let you figure out that chart, and then yes, I followed you.
Frank didn't notice Pua swimming after him.
This dry bag is great. I can keep my clothes with me while I'm snorkeling.
Conveniently for the animation department, Pua and Frank have a way to change out of their wetsuits and back into their normal clothes just in time for a cutscene. If Pua followed Frank through the currents, that means she was in the tunnel when Frank changed out of his wetsuit. Pua and Frank both have dry hair, despite going through the ocean less than 5 minutes ago. Big Island Mike's ponytail. Why can't Pua pay off the debt with her surfing sponsorship? Why can't they mortgage Mike's business? Why is this the only way for them to get money?
It's over, Pua. I'm dumping those things right now.
Big Island Mike is right. He could easily push the canisters into the lava here. That would destroy all the evidence and they'd get away with everything.
My father owes a lot of money to some really bad people.
Big Island Mike is in debt to loan sharks. We could have heard more about this, but instead, we get a lecture on beetle pheromones. The culprit's plot boils down to spray bug pheromones in the jungle so more beetles will mate. That's so ridiculous, I feel stupid just saying it. This random statue triggers an earthquake. It's not explained how or why. Nancy appears to be unaffected by this earthquake, but the last earthquake could be felt miles away at Big Island Mike's. By coincidence, the statue triggers an earthquake right when Big Island Mike is complaining about the last earthquake. See how far apart Kapu Cave and Big Island Mike's are? Either Nancy walked a long distance on foot, or the currents took Frank far underneath the island. Frank is standing in front of the crates here, and now he's far away from them.
Nice to get back on solid ground, though. Any ideas?
Frank can't figure out how to jump on his own. Pua and Big Island Mike say absolutely nothing during this scene. Why can't Frank turn around and take the exit that's directly behind him? I know Pua is in the way and she'd probably try to stop him, but I would still go for it. Similarly, why can't Big Island Mike turn around and take the exit that's right behind him? The layout of the rocks here doesn't match the layout of the rocks here. This puzzle. Rocks disappear and reappear whenever someone jumps on them. Rocks don't work like that in real life. Where do the rocks go when they lower out of sight? They can't sink into the ground because the floor is lava. Big Island Mike and Frank politely take turns and wait for each other before jumping. In real life, they would both be scrambling for the exits.
Nice work, Nancy.
Frank thanks Nancy when he did all the work. Pua and her dad are totally fine with leaving Frank and Nancy behind. Pua and Big Island Mike are jerks. Everyone in this game is a jerk! Frank made it to the exit. Good for him. But how does Nancy get to the exit from where she is? When Frank reaches his exit, this seals off the door to the other exit for reasons that aren't explained.
Although it took a while for the authorities to figure out exactly what to charge them with.
Because their plan was more stupid than illegal.
The land the Healy Research Facility was on used to belong to his aunt, used to work for a pineapple grower.
Vital information for solving the mystery is purposely withheld from players, so they can't guess the mystery solution on their own.
Big Island Mike hired Johnny Kudo to steal canisters of pheromones for him.
There just happened to be multiple canisters of beetle pheromones nearby for Johnny Kudo to steal. There's a picture of the Hardys at the Healy, even though they never went there. Why does Joe always stand a certain distance behind Frank? Dr. Craven totally gets away with destroying Quigley's camp. Quigley totally gets away with spying on Dr. Craven and breaking into the Healy. For that matter, Nancy gets away with breaking into the Healy. She's the hero, so it doesn't matter if she breaks the law.
I spend the rest of my time on the Big Island? Well, let's just say when it comes to cleaning frass jars, I am an expert.
Gross.
Frass. My days of analyzing frass are over.